was there. Unholy Terra. I was there when we almost fell. I am here to see you all rise. I have seen 1,000 times before. Your names will be engraved on golden plates as old as our homeworld. The names you bore before your ascension to the ranks of our hallowed brotherhood are gone. Now, you will take a new name, as I did. I chose Loyalist, I chose Puritan, and I chose Human. Not for us, the witch burnings of the Black Templars. Not for us, the wrath of the righteous angel. No. We are the excoriators. Second founding. We bled for Terra. We were led by Rogal Dorn himself. My name is Demetrius Catafalca, and you have earned, through blood and pain, the right to stand here. Dorn and I walked these halls long before his disappearance. The organs were played here for 12 millennia. This song is that of history, hope, and honor. My brother and friend, Dorn, knew the truth. You too will learn it, here and now. When Dorn was cast into the warp by the Vile Ones, he flew through time and space. He landed on a dead world, a cold world. He landed on the blasted, hateful waste that is Inwit. It offered then when it offers today. Nothing. Nothing save its people, ferocious and proud warriors to a man. Their cunning in negotiations, outdone only by their cunning with the blade. But only the Stoics survive such a world filled with apex predators, locked in a killing embrace by its almost dead star. If the cold doesn't get you, the beast will. Every moment on that world is a war, and one must become an enemy of the world in order to survive. One must learn how to cut what is costly to save the whole. You must learn the traits that came to define my brother Dorn. You must become stoic, cold, and honest no matter the brutality of the situation. You must understand that the truly difficult decisions must be made, or all will fail. You must be able to bear that weight. And what a terrible weight he came to bear. Inwit grew long before the Emperor came to be. This is not heresy, it is fact. The men and women bred by that cold, pragmatic world led legions, built starships and conquered under their own banner. It was among these proud, noble warrior clans that a young Rogal Dorn was raised. Just as the world of Inwit itself was divided by perpetual night and perpetual day, so became Dorn. The now legendary tactics of Rogal Dorn were taught in basic form by his adopted grandfather of that world. As Dorn led those ice-born legions forth, he carried with him the lessons he had learned from those clan leaders. Lessons carried forth on the winds of legend by generations of bitter-edged warriors and their kin. With age came the refinement of the warrior's art. Dorn forged ships and weapons beyond the imaginations of the Inwit natives. Those ships and weapons were amassed into perfect legions by Dorn when the splinter fleets of the Great Crusade arrived. 40 years after his adopted grandfather's death, Dorn stood as the figurehead of the Inwit legions. His ship, the Phalanx, now a vessel of dread and legend, was the meeting ground between the Emperor and Dorn. Dorn's loyalty to the Emperor, his devotion to justice and righteousness, was wrought in iron from the first moment. The meeting aboard the Phalanx, the Emperor introduced the Astartes to Dorn. 1,000 soldiers who came to encapsulate the best of his traits. Pragmatic, tactical, and willing to be the last soldier standing, the last rock against the tide. A loyalty and devotion that still resonates through the Imperium to this day. Though Dorn was the 7th of the rediscovered Primarchs, he stood high amongst their ranks from the first moment. As time went on, as we carved our place amongst the damned stars, Rogal Dorn's tale was being forged in blood and steel. So profound was his faith, so unfaltering his loyalty, that to this day, on Blessed Macragge stands a statue of your Gene father, shoulder to shoulder with his brother Guilliman. That statue still stands today. Crowned by an iron halo, forged from the fragments of 1,000 blades from 1,000 worlds. Blessed are those souls who journey to see such a hallowed statue. Blessed are those who kept the memory of my best friend alive to this day. Have you ever heard the words that Rogal Dorn spoke to the 300 magistrates? Do not look at us for kindness. Do not look to us for hope. We are the rocks of its foundation. If you wish to hope, then look to what we make. If you wish for kindness, then look at those who will come after us. Do you understand? Do you see the burden that he carried, even in those early days? The Imperial fists do not forget. We do not forget the sacrifices of the humans on Terra. We, the excoriators, bear the weight of the sins of mankind. We bear the fist of Dorn, just as the descendants do. We remain stoic, proud, and defiant. Though long gone are our days of waiting for war. We do not build as Dorn built. We fight as Dorn fought. His brother Russ described him as swift and unforgiving as the falling edge of an axe. Beneath that stone shell that Dorn wore raged a permanent storm. He was consumed by the need to perform his duty and the need to be human. A need which our Gene brothers often forgot. For if anyone's heart has ever broken, Dorn's heart broke when hearing of Horus' betrayal. I was there. I heard the words of Garrow and the other survivors of the butchery of Isstvan III. I'll never forget that day. So long ago, aboard the Phalanx, after we saved the Eisenstein from the clutch of the warp, Commander Garrow of the Death Guard had told Rogal Dorn, told all of us in fact, of the butchery, the depravity. And when he proclaimed Commander Garrow a traitor, Garrow saved us all, for he was aboard the Eisenstein. He had seen firsthand the barbarism, and he escaped to tell of the sights. Dorn raised his voice for the first time, and the room shook with it. This is what you come to me with? A convoluted story of treachery and conspiracy amongst the Emperor's sons?
I know this is difficult to accept.
Difficult? I do not know what to make of you, Garrow. You carry yourself like an honest man. But if you are not a traitor and a deceiver, then you can only be possessed by insanity. Garrow heard the sound of blood rushing in his ears. Everything was going wrong, falling apart around him. He looked away. Look at me when I speak to you, Death God! These lies you bring into my personal chambers, they sicken and disgust me. That you would dare to say such things about a hero of such matchless character as my brother, Horus. It vexes me beyond my capability for description. How cheap you must hold your integrity to give up so easily. I weep for Mortarion. The only reason I do not rip you limb from limb for your defamation is that I know my brothers will reserve this pleasure for themselves. Gero felt the decking turn to mud beneath his boots, but he found the strength to carry on.
Are you blind?
What did you say to me?
I asked if you were blind, Lord, because I fear you must be. Only one struck by such a terrible ailment could be as you are. Yours is the blindness that only a brother might have, that of a keen judgment, clouded by admiration and respect. Clouded by your love for your kinsman.
Dorn broke. Before I could blink, his blade was in his hand, roaring instantly to life.
Get to your knees and accept your death while you still have the chance to die like an Astartes!
We believed that was the moment when Dorn would lose his composure. I know I did. But Keela, that legendary remembrancer, saved Gero's life. The pain in her voice, the raw human emotion, it stopped Dorn's blade from striking Gero down. She had captured proof of the heresy, scenes of depravity, barbarism, betrayal. She saved Gero's life, and who can even guess how many more?
Do you know why I told you that? Do you see where the fury of the Black Templars comes from?
Dorn's doubt. His only weakness was the truest gift of mankind. Love. He loved his brothers, especially Horus. That rage came to be the main characteristic of so many of his fervent sons. Sons born from his gene seed. Well, that wrath has always been there. A wrath shared by his huskarls. Those sainted bodyguards, made by Dorn himself. They alone know the depths of Dorn's pain. They alone knew the tales of the man. And I cannot say if their tales still live on. But the legacy is strong. Every world that an Imperial fist visits, each stone raised in defense of the Imperium, each shell loaded with malicious intent, they all bear the legacy of Dorn's stoicism, the legacy of his belief in mankind. But who else but Dorn's first sons could have weaseled out the traitorous 20th? Who else but the first Captain Archimus would have been bold enough to lead an attack against the 20th's own Primarch? The Alpha Legion believed themselves untouchable and genius. Far more genius than anyone else. It was their arrogance that saw their assaults on Pluto fail. It was Dorn's lack of arrogance that saw him succeed. It was Alfarius' overconfidence that saw him dead at Dorn's feet. I believe more of Dorn broke that day, being forced to exact justice upon another of his brothers. The 20th had murdered so many, had committed acts of terrorism, subversion, and hate. Dorn couldn't forgive that. He couldn't forgive the treachery, the base inhumanity of it all. He struck down Alfarius, killing his own brother. A terrible cost. A cost that only the strong can bear. It was after this that he and his sons returned to our home, to Terra. I will not go in detail about every single stone laid in defense of their world. I will, however, do away with the pathetic lie often told about my best friend. Dorn did not gladly hide the arts inherent to our homeworld. Having to hide humanity's achievements behind ferrocrates and plascrates was not a happy chore to him. He knew that in order to ensure humanity's ability to create more works of art, humanity must first survive. So he hid those frescoes and panels of master-crafted gold. He hid those statues and monuments, because he knew that to live in the light, one must sometimes prepare to fight in the dark. 1 million and more guns were raised in place by Dorn and his first sons. But I know that he resented being put in that position. But again, he bore that weight. He knew the cost. As the war spread like a cancer towards Terra, and then eventually onto the very walls of the Sanctum Imperialis itself, Dorn, prepared to enact the justice brought by the 20th once more. However, thanks to their schemes of the warp, Dorn and several dozen others were teleported to the wrong end of Horus' ship. They were forced to fight, forced to carve their way to that final, dreadful place. I could not imagine the strength needed to see what he saw. It was Dorn who found Horus, Sanguinius, and the Emperor. The pain of seeing one brother dead and finding your father dying. Who else but Rogal Dorn could shoulder that terrible, awful, evil weight? It was into Dorn's ear that the Emperor's final words were spoken. No one knows what he said, though many have speculated. It was Rogal Dorn who carried his father's broken body to the Golden Throne. It was Rogal Dorn who carried a god, as he had once been carried as a boy on Inward, so very long ago. I have heard rumors that atop his dying father, Dorn placed that fur cloak, knowing that with his father's passing, his last vestige of youth had gone. The years after the end of the Great Heresy, my years of conflict, strife, doubt, and guilt, Dorn laid at his own feet the blame for the death of Sanguinius, the Emperor, and billions of humans. Though it was not his guilt. It was not his lack of action that caused such awful events. After Lord Guilliman ordered all legions to abide by the Codex Astartes, Dorn found a chance to expunge himself of that guilt. He threw himself and his sons into the iron cage. Once again, another of his brothers had decided to devote his life to slaying the innocent. And it was in that trap that Dorn excoriated himself. It was there that from him was bled the guilt of ages past. Each wound, each fallen son, each shot fired into the Iron Warriors broke Rogal from his self-made prison. As he broke from the iron cage, from the cage of his mind, free of guilt, free of regret. The toils and trails of the weeks in the iron cage had remade him. He had been forged in flames of suffering, tempered in the blood of traitors and heroes alike. Dorn was pulled from his iron tomb by Guilliman, for the Lord Regent feared that Dorn was to be killed by the Iron Warriors, and perhaps in his own way, Dorn did want to die. But he lived on. He was free of guilt of the heresy, but he felt keenly each death suffered by his brothers. As more Primarchs fell or faded, so grew his temper, his wrath. Many believe Rogal Dorn to have died by the blades of the First Crusade. Many believe he was simply overcome with grief and surrendered his life. There is no proof of his demise, other than his hand, that skeletal relic, scrimshawed and venerated by his sons. I do not believe Dorn to be dead. If I have proof of his life, I will not share it. But I have even less proof of his death. I do not think he is dead. I believe that he still brings judgment to the foes of the Imperium, sailing on darker tides at the reaches of his father's galaxy, bearing that weight on shoulders that carry it, shoulders that bear scars from ancient wars. Rogal Dorn lives on in his sons' hearts, lives on in the countless statues and works of art. Every brick and bolt laid against the foes of humanity is an act of Dorn-like purity. He still lives on, and always will. He is the Imperial Fist, the bulwark, the shield that guards the innocent. And you, all of you hold within you the spark of his anger. You hold within your twin hearts the chill of the winds of Inward. You bear the legacy of humanity's truest sun. Go forth into the dark of the galaxy and spread the truest gift our species has, Spread the blinding light of our Father into the dark. Spread the flame of righteous onto the wretched hives of the villainous. For you are Imperial Fist. You are the mountain that blocks the storm. You are the excoriatus. You expunge from the fabric of reality the weakness of the soul. You forge in the fires of war a blade which carves out the cancer spread by chaos. Go forth and bear my friend's name with pride, for you are the sons of Rogal Dorn. And he lives on.